Potatoes are a staple food that can be prepared in many different ways. But can you have potatoes if you're trying to lose weight? Or should you avoid them at all costs? And how about sweet potatoes? Let's talk about potatoes and sweet potatoes on a weight loss diet. Potatoes come from the starchy roots of a plant called Solanum tuberosum. The parts of the plant above the ground are actually toxic and contain high amounts of the toxin solanine. However, the roots are edible as potatoes. If new sprouts begin to bud from the potato roots, particularly if it has started to turn green, the sprouts may begin to accumulate the solanine toxin. This is why you shouldn't be eating sprouted potatoes. Sweet potatoes versus regular potatoes. Sweet potatoes come from the starchy roots of another distantly related plant called Ipomoea batatas. This plant is not toxic, and its sprouts can be safely eaten. The macronutrient densities of regular potatoes and sweet potatoes are not that different. Potatoes have slightly more protein, while sweet potatoes have slightly more soluble fiber, but also contain a considerable amount more sugar than regular potatoes. Overall, both types are pretty comparable in terms of nutrition, and the exact amount of nutrition provided will depend on how they're prepared. For example, baking or boiling for longer periods of time tend to increase the carbohydrate content for both. Are sweet potatoes better? The prevailing belief that sweet potatoes are in every way better than regular potatoes is not well supported by reality. It seems to be driven by two major beliefs. 1. Sweet potatoes are more nutritious than regular potatoes. This is simply not true. While sweet potatoes contain more beta-carotene, which is converted into vitamin A in our bodies, regular potatoes have more essential minerals. So they're both quite nutritious and contain slightly different nutrient concentrations than each other. One is not significantly more nutritious than the other. 2. Sweet potatoes have a lower glycemic index and don't raise the blood sugar as much as regular potatoes, therefore are better for diabetics and those trying to lose weight. Again, this is not entirely true. Sweet potatoes might have slightly more soluble fiber, but contain significantly more sugar. It depends on how both potatoes are cooked and prepared. It also depends on the type of regular potato used, as russet potatoes tend to have a higher glycemic index than red potatoes. On average, fully baked sweet potatoes have approximately the same glycemic index as fully baked regular potatoes. At the end of the day, both sweet potatoes and regular potatoes are practically the same in terms of their effects on weight loss. But sweet potatoes are sweet, so are more likely to be eaten by themselves as opposed to regular potatoes, which might be eaten with butter, bacon, or other condiments. Fully loading a potato with these condiments will start to increase the calorie intake and change its nutritional profile, potentially for the worse. And perhaps it's because of this that regular potatoes seem to get a bad rap. Now let's take a look at some of the strengths and weaknesses of eating potatoes or sweet potatoes on your weight loss diet. Strength. Not bad for a carbohydrate. Potatoes contain a significant portion of starch, which is a carbohydrate. This does mean that potatoes will likely have to be reduced or eliminated on low-carb or ketogenic diets. However, as a carby food, it does contain a decent amount of fiber, particularly if you also eat the skin. It also contains a good variety and amount of minerals and vitamins, more so than say pasta or white bread. Weakness. Mostly carbohydrate. Because potatoes are mostly carbohydrate, they may not be as filling later in the day as some other foods that are higher in protein or fat, like chicken or eggs. So your medium baked potato with gravy may not keep you feeling as full a few hours later than say 3 hard-boiled eggs, even though both provide approximately the same amount of calories. The carb in potatoes is also not quite a complex carbohydrate, at least not as much as nuts, seeds, beans, or lentils. This means it's going to have a higher glycemic index and more quickly raise your blood sugar levels than those foods. But it does tend to have a lower glycemic index than other highly refined carbs like muffins or breads. Summary. Overall, potatoes and sweet potatoes are a nutritious carbohydrate source. You could use it as a preferred carb source over pasta or rice. For example, if you need some carb before a workout or you want to have some carb in your meal and your diet allows for it, potatoes are a great way to do it. If you wanted something sweet but wanted to minimize the sugar from other sweet treats, having a small sweet potato instead would be a great way to do it. Remember that if you're eating potatoes on your weight loss diet and want to retain the most beneficial nutrients, cooking the whole potato is the way to go. Potato chips, fries, or other processed potato snacks will likely just be empty carbs and should be limited on your diet. Keep in mind that carbohydrates are not the most filling macronutrient, and if you want to increase the fullness of your meals and help reduce hunger throughout your diet, increasing your protein and fat would be a better long-term solution. Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Young, a naturopathic doctor in Toronto. Do you have potatoes on your weight loss diet, or do you prefer sweet potatoes? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you found this video helpful, please subscribe to the channel and leave me a like. Hit the notification bell if you want to stay up to date, and share this video with someone you know can use the help.